The story takes place in the year 2092. The Earth is becoming uninhabitable due to pollution. Surviving humans explore new space frontiers. A company called UTS is building a new orbital home for humanity, but only a few elites have access to it. The remaining population is then forced to breathe in the polluted air on Earth. The majority of them survive as space sweepers, hovering around space and collecting debris from decommissioned satellites and spacecraft. Kim Tae-ho, a Victory crew member, rustles into an office to trade a bag of rice for them. They do, however, send him away and take his pair of magnetic shoes. In exchange, a UTS guard directs him to a morgue in the hopes of finding his long-lost adopted daughter, Soo-ni. Regardless, his attempt fails because the recovered body was not Soo-ni's. Meanwhile, journalists from around the world are invited to meet James Sullivan, the founder of UTS Corporation. At 152 years old, he is the world's wealthiest and oldest man. Sullivan presents himself to the reporters in an unnaturally young body. He discusses his vision of cultivating life on Mars using the superplant, a tree of life. In the midst of Sullivan's promising ideas, the reporters appear disheartened. One of them points out that his plans are only available to the wealthy and superior, leaving the rest of the population out. Sullivan does not deny it and tells the reporter that they will discuss it further the next time they meet. Space sweeper crews rush to collect large space debris on a solar battery charging area in space. While the other space sweepers are chasing the junk, another crew from the ship Victory approaches the area. Captain Jang commands this ship, which is managed by 4 members: Kim Tae-ho, Bubs, and Tiger Park. For a long time, the crew has demonstrated their ability to collect space junk, earning the reputation of being among the best in the league of space sweepers. The other space sweepers become concerned as they approach. Kim Tae-ho, the ship's chief pilot, was a former UTS Armed Forces intellectual commander. Bubs, a droid, works as a maintenance worker on the Victory. Tiger, a former drug dealer, takes over as ship's mechanical engineer. And Victory's leader, Captain Jang, was a former child genius and special forces officer who escaped from UTS Corporation. Captain Jang casually orders Tae-ho to pick up speed after inspecting the current situation. Bubs takes aim before expertly hooking a harpoon to the space junk, which attaches it to their ship. The Victory snatches the debris and flees the other crews in an instant. The other crews pursue the Victory, expressing their displeasure with their cunning and reckless behavior. Captain Jang co-pilots on the other side of the ship as soon as Tiger manually boosts their engine. The other space sweepers stop pursuing them as the crew moves towards a large solar panel, easily steering the ship. The crew proceeds to the waste management satellite in order to sell their collections. They make a lot of money, but they use it to pay off their huge debts and taxes. They barely have enough money to live on. Furthermore, the UTS cashier refuses to accept the space debris they have captured because the garage in the building is already full. During their transaction, UTS Corporation breaks news about Dorothy, a child-shaped android who has gone missing. Dorothy is described as a weapon of mass destruction and is said to have been stolen by the Black Foxes. Later, the crew passes the time and feeds their hunger by playing a card game. Tiger informs everyone that some of their supplies have gone missing in the middle of the game. Specifically, their toolbox, battery, and rice bag. As he confronts them, he suspects that someone has been stealing from their ship. Tae-ho, the suspect, remains warily silent while Tiger interrogates the captain. Captain Jang, who is frequently drunk, cuts him off and encourages Tiger to continue their game. Bubs interjects as the two's argument becomes heated, reminding them of the looming deadline for their loans. Tae-ho becomes overwhelmed by Bubs' constant reminders and orders the droid to stop. Their growing dissatisfaction with their disagreements erupted into a brawl inside the Victory. Bubs sighs in disbelief as Captain Jang, Tae-ho, and Tiger pass out on the ship's floor. After a while, Bubs and Tiger remain in space to inspect the ship's condition. Bubs sits on top of the ship, looking at Skin as Tiger floats around in a spacesuit. Grafting procedures in the hope of transitioning to a female. They notice movement coming from the large space junk they discovered earlier. Tae-ho, Tiger, and Bubs arrive to check in. Dorothy, the reported missing child, is discovered within the space debris, which turns out to be a cargo ship. The four become suspicious and unsure what to do with the child. Tae-ho and Dorothy exchange glances that remind him of his adopted daughter before he walks away. The ship's software alerts them to the news about Dorothy. The crew members see the news as they nervously duck and cover for protection, believing that Dorothy is about to self-destruct. Instead, the child sneezes and follows their pose innocently. They flee Dorothy and lock themselves in a room as soon as she approaches. Fearful, the four decide to tie Dorothy outside the ship, but their plan fails. Tiger also calls the police to inform them about Dorothy. Tae-ho later discovers a phone in Dorothy's bag with several missed calls from Kong Hyun-yu. Dorothy, on the other hand, wanders around the ship, clueless and bored. She comes across a withering plant and all of a sudden, a leaf sprouts from it thanks to her nanotechnology abilities. The crew meets in a tavern to discuss Dorothy. They discover that the Space Guards and Black Fox are both looking for her. Tae-ho proposes selling Dorothy to the Black Foxes for money, knowing that they will not receive any money from the police. Captain Jang expresses her reservations about the plan, but Tae-ho insists on going ahead with it, convincing the rest of the crew. The four space sweepers argue about how to divide the money, but they eventually agree. Back on board the Victory, the crew maintains their distance from the child. They find her drawing on the wall of Tiger's room while watching her through the cameras. Soon after, the crew investigates Dorothy's phone and contacts Kong Hyun-yu, whom they believe is from Black Fox. The two parties then agree to meet at a nightclub, while the crew cheers in delight, thinking of the money. Tiger returns to his room, Dorothy still inside. Dorothy shows Tiger her drawing of him, and the two grow closer over time. Meanwhile, Tae-ho and Tiger are getting ready to meet with Kong Hyun-yu when a police officer appears on the Victory. The officer looks around and talks about their illegal ship modifications. They've all noticed that the plant in the spaceship is fully alive and growing. The police officer inquires about Tiger's phone call in order to confirm their report, but they all remain silent. Tiger's gestures towards Dorothy, who is hiding in another room, are noticed by the officer. He enters the room with suspicion and inspects the surroundings. Captain Jang and the rest of the crew corner him just as he is about to discover Dorothy. They blackmail the officer and accuse him of accepting bribes, forcing him to flee the Victory to prevent him from reporting to UTS. Dorothy steps out after he exits the ship and gives Captain Jang a thumbs up. Tae-ho and Tiger enter the nightclub, carrying Dorothy in a bag. Tiger demonstrates his growing attachment to the child by inquiring of Tae-ho what will happen to Dorothy after the deal. Tae-ho persuades him that Dorothy is not a child and that he should not be concerned. They eventually meet Kong Hyun-yu, a doctor who specializes in nanomedicine. The child is exchanged for $2 million by the two parties. Dr. Kong, on the other hand, discovers the bag empty because Dorothy has wandered off the dance floor. Captain Jang orders the crew to find Dorothy as soon as possible before anyone recognizes her. Meanwhile, Dorothy examines a tall pillar of electricity with interest. As the music in the club fades, the partygoers begin to recognize her. They are all terrified as they stare at Dorothy, and soon hidden UTS soldiers begin a shootout in the club. Dr. Kong addresses Dorothy as Kot Nim in Korean while calling out to her. Tae-ho and Tiger have found Dorothy and are on their way out of the club when a UTS soldier spots them. Dorothy creates a protective shield around them as the soldier shoots at them. Captain Jang is taken aback as she observes the situation from the ship via remote access. They express their disappointment at the failed trade as soon as they return to the Victory. Dorothy's real name is Kot Nim, which the entire crew discovers. The rest of the crew warms up to her, but Tae-ho stays away, still believing Kot Nim is dangerous. The crew returns to the maintenance hangar to have their engine repaired. Tae-ho dismisses Kot Nim when she knocks on his door to borrow his scissors. Tae-ho changes his mind and gives the scissors to the young girl as she is about to leave his room. They cut the tomatoes that had grown inside the ship and sold them to the other space sweepers in the maintenance hangar. Later, Bubs and Kot Nim bond over a makeup session, and Bubs tells her about Tae-ho and Tae adopted Ho's daughter Soo-ni. Tae-ho was a UTS child soldier, according to Kot Nim. He raided a ship carrying a number of fleeing non-citizens, known as those who were outside the UTS orbiting home, a while back. Tae-ho discovered a human baby on the ship and decided to adopt her despite UTS's opposing rules. His strong attachment to his adopted daughter Soo-ni kept him from hurting any further. As a result, he was fired from the Space Guard and expelled from the UTS orbital home. Soo-ni was separated from him a year later due to a space debris collision. She can only be found with the assistance of UTS services, which come at a high cost. At this point, the crew receives Dr. Kang's call and arranges another meeting to finalize the deal. Bubs and Tae-ho are eager to receive the money and continue with the trade. Amid Tiger's suggestion that Kot Nim be kept, Captain Jang goes through the papers in Kot backpack Nim's while drinking. A masked man follows Kot Nim to the toilet inside the maintenance hangar and takes her away. Tae-ho and Tiger save Kot Nim, but they are quickly cornered by a group of masked people. Tiger easily defeats them all, and they learn that the masked people are fellow space debris collectors led by Karam. The crew confronts the space debris collectors in their lounge. Captain Jang discovers that Kong Kot Nim is a human child who is the daughter of a nanorobot scientist named Kong Hyeon Yu after reading the files in Kot backpack. She also informs the space debris collectors that they are members of Black Fox, which surprises them. Karam explains that the Black Fox is not a terrorist organization, but rather an environmental one. Sullivan summons the reporter he met during his press conference at the same time, and they resume their conversation. The reporter wants to know his plans for stealing money and valuable human resources from Earth. He accuses Sullivan of hastening the planet's demise. Sullivan, on the other hand, tells him about his previous experiences on Earth and blames the people, vowing to make the world a better place by selecting only the most upright citizens. In front of the reporter, Sullivan stuns a member of the Black Foxes and challenges him to kill the man in exchange for becoming a UTS citizen. In the midst of the pressure, the reporter shoots the man nervously. Sullivan makes him realize that his actions have revealed his true nature as a hateful person and greedy, killing the man as a result. Back in the hangar, Karam emphasizes that the Earth can still be habitable. Kot father, Nim's Dr. Kong, injected nanobots into her body to save her life because she was born with a congenital disease. The nanobots not only repaired her nerves, but also gave her the ability to resurrect dead plants. This serves as a possibility for reintroducing life to Earth. Sullivan, on the other hand, is looking for Kot Nim for his Mars development project. The space guards quickly arrive at the hangar and begin searching for Kot Nim. Tiger, Captain Jang, and Bubs depart with Kareem and the Black Foxes, severing the newly formed team. Tae-ho and Kot Nim flee through the air vents, but they are discovered by a space guard. The space guards quickly track their ship and fire at Victory, while another fires at Tae location. Hose after much struggle, Kot Nim and the crew make it out of the hangar in time. Tae-ho quickly takes over as pilot of the ship as the space guards continue to pursue them in space. They launch an attack that destroys Victory's engine, causing them to crash into the Lagrangian point, a cosmic cloud teeming with lethal nanobots. When the ship enters the deadly cloud, the nanobots quickly penetrate it. Captain Jang calms Kot Nim by making her close her eyes, while the rest of the crew braces for the impact. Nanobots cover the entire ship, but they all dissipate as soon as Kot Nim opens her eyes. With the assistance of Kot Power, Nim's the Victory ship successfully passes through the Lagrangian point. Kot Nim collapses from exhaustion, causing the crew to panic and rush to her aid. Kot Nim soon awakens, and they all laugh at each other, relieved. Tae Ho walks into Kot Room Nim's and asks why she hasn't drawn him yet. Kot Nim responds, saying she has already drawn him but is too afraid to show him. The child approaches Tae Ho with her sketchpad, revealing his drawing for the first time. The two discuss Su-Ni, and Kot Nim invites Tae Ho to see Su-Ni with him someday. Before going to Tiger, Kot Nim manages to console Tae Ho. Tiger washes her hair before meeting Dr. Kong. The Victory soon arrives at the rendezvous point with Dr. Kong. Karam confirms their location, and the crew and the Black Foxes meet. Dr. Kong will go get Kot Nim. On Sullivan's orders, the UTS forces surrounded them. They turned off the power in the area, which turned off Bubs and their engines. The Space Guards stage an ambush and kidnap Dorothy before eliminating Dr. Kong, Karam, and the remaining Black Foxes. In exchange for abandoning Kot Nim, Sullivan offers to double the money from the previous deal with Dr. Kong. Sullivan departs, and Tae Ho accepts the money. The rest of the crew refuses to accept the money and instead decides to save Kot Nim. Tae Ho then hands over the entire sum to pay for the UTS services, after which he is given Su's belongings. He discovers Su writing Ni's notebook and reads her message. She also wrote in her notebook that she aspired to be a good person like him. Tae Ho is moved to tears and reminded of his errors. He eventually decides to return the money and return to the ship to assist the crew, in order to save Kot Nim. They quickly repair and modify the Victory before heading to Kot location. Nim's meanwhile, Sullivan informs UTS residents about the start of a new world on Mars. He intends to abandon Earth entirely and make Mars the only habitable planet left. To accomplish this, Sullivan ties Kot Nim to a hydrogen bomb. This causes a massive impact that not only kills her but also destroys the entire planet. As the ship approaches the UTS factory and encounters the UTS missiles, a battle ensues. While Tae Ho and Tiger navigate the ship, Captain Jang and Bubs clear out the missiles. The team arrives at the factory and successfully separates Kot Ni from the bomb. Captain Jang discovers that the bomb cannot be defused and that Kot Nim must be taken out of range for her nanobots to function. The crew is disheartened by the news, but Tae Ho refuses to give up and decides to fly the required 5,000 kilometers. On their way, an elite space guard appears and stops them. Tiger decides to face the space guard alone, but she easily defeats him. He successfully ejects the space guard from the ship, and they take off quickly. Captain Jang sends a message to the remaining space sweepers, encouraging them to aid in the fight against the UTS attackers for the sake of their survival. The Victory speeds up, flying as fast and as far as they can to cover the necessary distance. Meanwhile, a recorded message detailing Sullivan's true plans and intentions reaches both humans and UTS citizens, shocking them. Sullivan finally appears, intercepting the Victory with his own ship. He relentlessly presses the Victory to hand over Kot Nim, injuring Captain Jang and Bubs in the process. Tae Ho and Tiger resort to their last line of defense, activating the ship's emergency booster. Captain Jang climbs from the outside of the ship to activate the booster before the ship continues on its journey into space. They manage to elude Sullivan's ship for a brief moment and reach the 5,000-kilometer mark for Kot Nim. It is later revealed that the crew did not bring Kot Nim because they knew Sullivan would come after her. Instead, they flew the required distance with the bomb to keep Kot Nim safe while she is with the other space sweepers. The members of the Victory exchanged farewell messages before delivering the bomb close to the Sullivan's ship. The bomb explodes, killing him instantly. Kot Nim, on the other hand, saves the entire crew by communicating with the Lagrangian nanobots to shield them. Tae Ho and Tiger exclaim in surprise as they realize they have survived the explosion. They make fun of each other for being cringy with their farewell messages, but they still celebrate their victory. The UTS is implementing changes in the aftermath of the disaster. The corporation also apologizes to the public for concealing their true intentions and pledges to improve Earth's living conditions. The UTS also makes the search for TAE daughter, Ho Soo-ni, easier. TAE Ho is able to reach Soo-ni for the final time by using Kot Nim and her nanobots as a medium. TAE Ho finally says goodbye to her, and the two reconnect briefly. While Bubs, the crew's dependable droid, successfully affords a skin graft procedure and identifies herself as a female. The film concludes with the Victory members sharing a meal with Kot Nim, whom they fully adopt as a family member. Kot Nim uses her abilities to plant more trees and restore Earth's habitability.